that you'll have to muddle through before football. Big leg.
Yo, cuz. What's happening, man? How you doing? What's happening, Captain?
Giddy, man.
I know you are.
Brooks,
for
baby,
training
Brooks.
camp. That's just sad for training camp. You can't get giddy for training camp.
You love training camp. Come on, man. You love.
I don't. I'm not going to admit to it. There was never a time where I loved training camp.
You love the idea of training camp. Now that you don't have to go.
Well, yeah, that's different. See, yeah. I can relish in the pain of others and the discomfort of others, you know. But you know, waking up to those humid mornings and having to put on full gear and go out and smack some people around.
Yeah,
you know, the all-day sucker, the Spartan life, as many coaches said. You know, yeah, it was a little difficult sometimes.
Listen, it's the greatest. The air tastes like, or breathes in like paste on those mornings where you hear the bugs, right? It's the greatest thing in the world.
Oh, yeah.
The beauty of the IV.
Got the table set up, the ice bath, and everything.
You know what it's great about? And this is why, on all seriousness, I love start camp, because it signals time to go to work. And it signals that it's underway, and shortly we will be back. You're right. Shortly we'll be there, and we'll be analyzing it. It's such an interesting time, right? Because training camp is a time of wonder. Because it's a time of going, hey, how's this thing going to shake out? How's this thing going to look? What's it going to look like? We always talk about spring training being the time of hope in baseball, right? It's the same thing in training camp. There's a training camp, especially now. Especially where the league is now. You got hope. Did you look at a year ago?
There's a feeling of optimism. There's a feeling of taking care of unfinished business. And I know where you're going with that. I know where you're going with that. A little different perspective as a player. I remember training camps as being a time where you really had to reestablish your position in a hierarchy of the team. Because you had a lot of guys who wanted to try to prove themselves.
You're taking your job. You got a bullseye.
Yeah, exactly. And whether they're defenders trying to make a way over you, or offensive linemen sitting in the wing, wings waiting for you to fail, you had to reestablish your position. You have to also reestablish the relationships that you've had with the vital players on the team, the chemistry, because you know that you guys are going to be together. You want to build that. You want to see that quarterback to wide receiver dynamic. You want to see that coach get the feel that he can run over your side and get the first down. I mean, that's all about what training camp's about. That's the good thing.
That's all your work. That's getting all your work in.
Absolutely.
And it's funny, the dynamics that take place. And you talk about rookies that are trying to make names, or rookies that are going to overdo it in practice. You talk about guys that are after you and after your job. It's funny. I always thought the guys, where they would say, "Oh yeah, older veterans are going to teach all the young all the rookies their tricks." That's ridiculous. Why would you teach anything to anyone that's going to take your job? Right? Very true. Yeah, but all those dynamics are in play. And the idea of camp,
you polarize it a little bit. Almost poetry type words when you put it like that. But the thing is that you also have a chance to see guys who really, in a lot of the scenarios, might not have a chance to make the team, but they can show their stuff. Maybe they weren't drafted. Maybe they come up from a different team. Maybe they were out with injury last year. To see if to make the team, because there are camp bodies. There are a lot of camp bodies, and you can kind of walk through the locker room as a veteran and see it. You know, the rosters are pretty much set before training camp starts, but there's some spots open, and every year there's at least 2 guys who make the team simply on special teams also. That's fun to watch too, because you want to see who brings the best competitive nature out of you.
Let me ask you a question as we start the show. Broadcasting live from the Fox Sports Radio studios, brought to you by Geico. 15 minutes and save you 15% of more car insurance. Visit geico.com for a free rate quote. I have in front of me plot lines storyline for every NFL team.
Why am I surprised? Why am I surprised?
Are you up for that?
Surprised.
Are you up for it?
I can't let all your hard work that you do throughout the week just fall by the wayside. Of course I'm up for it, partner. You know me better than that. It's for every NFL team.
Well, because every team has an interesting story on it.
Does every team really? Can you say every team?
Yes.
The Jaguars have an interesting storyline?
Yes.
Okay.
You don't think the Jaguars are interesting going into this?
I'm just asking. I just threw it out there. I'm just asking.
Okay. I think every team has their own. Because every team right now, there's so many ways in which they can go. Come together, the whole thing. I mean, you bring up Jacksonville, and I'll give you a new coach. I'll give you an old defensive coach, old school. Right? Gus Bradley.
True, but it's still the same bad team.
No, but there's hope now in Jacksonville.
There's always hope.
And maybe Gus Bradley, Gus comes in on a Gus bus, and Gus gets them playing a wicked style of defense.
Who knows? Who knows?
Right? Because Gus knows how to call defense, knows how to build a defense. That Seattle team was incredible. The truth. Swarming. Remember that night in the rain against the Niners?
But here's one thing that Gus can't have any control over. The fanfare, the fan factor. And Seattle playing at home, that noise, that environment made it chaotic and hectic for opposing teams, and it has been that way for a while. That's something the head coach can't control.
Defense. Minor defense.
Oh, okay. My bad. I didn't mean to escape that detail. My bad. I didn't want to. Being optimistic, I'm being positive. Okay, all right.
No, but again, you get my point. There are.
I know. I get
storylines everywhere. And that's the thing. You look at every team, and every team has its own story that's going to play out in 2013. I was talking this, and Scott Rabb's going to join us a little bit later on the program this hour. And Scott and I were talking about the idea of football. And this whole, I kind of view it in almost cinematic terms. It's the only sport, you know me, I'm a complete loser. I love him. Whether it's baskets, baseball, hockey, I'm in golf, we got British Open. We're going to talk to Steve Sands coming up live across the pond. But when you look at football to me is played in mythical places by these men who can be these mythical heroes. And it's the closest thing, I think, to almost cinema playing out in reality TV.
Okay.
I know you as a player, I romanticize.
Well, no,
and you, unfortunately, cannot romanticize because, face it, you live in the underbelly of it.
But here's my take on it, partner. As much as we can romanticize or play up the fact that every team has got a storyline, when it comes down to the nuts and bolts, you can pretty much, just like any other sport, separate the cream from the frost.
I'm not telling you every storyline is going to have you at the edge of your seat. You know what I mean? I'm not telling you every storyline's a Godfather.
And that's my point. That's my point. There are some storylines that are way more intriguing than.
Yeah, well, I'm with you. My only point is that every team's got one. Every team, there's a story to everyone. Every team's going to write its own book for the year. That's all. And listen, some are better than others, but I'm all in on every one, right? Because to me, even the thinnest of the plot lines in the NFL can fill me up. All right, I'll get satisfaction from it.
Oh, you are a geek, but I love you.
How's your week?
It was wonderful, brother. It was wonderful. It was wonderful. I got my son here in town. The mildest, Zach, is here. We went to the lake yesterday, hung out. Today I'm gonna go home after the show and work on some footwork, some hand stuff, and
that's beautiful.
get him ready for his training camp pretty soon.
When does SC begin?
I think it's like a few weeks, probably 3 weeks. I think something like that.
About 2-3 weeks.
Yeah.
So, if the audience don't know, your son